Chris here with something different today. So I'm taking a look at these two power stations that were sent out to me some time ago in exchange for this review you're watching. And it is from a company called Bluetti. They're called in the States, and in Europe, they are called Power Oak, they're branded as. So this is the AC200P. Impressive output from this one. The inverter can do up to 2,000 watts. The capacity is 2,000 watt hours. And it's got DC and AC charging. It can accept up to 700 watts solar charging or 500 watts with AC charging with this model. So I'm going to go over it in detail, do some charging tests, break out the solar panels. I've got one of them here that they sent me. I've got 3 in total, so I'll do some charging tests, output tests with them. And the smaller little model here, this one is the AC50S. This one has 300 watts maximum output, and it does have a 500 watt hour capacity. So for accessories in the box, we get some various input cables here for our solar charging, car charger there as well. And our power brick really is a power brick. Look at the size of this thing. So the output of this one is 411 watts. And I've got the EU cable, of course, with this one. That's included. So it is different. This is the EU model. So the US model, which is under the Bluetti brand, you'll have a lot more AC outputs because we're using here on the power system, it's 240 instead of the 120 which we have in the US. So the two plugs there, EU style ones, of course, nice quality rubber dust caps that go over them. We've got USB right here, which is the 2 ports, so they're 15 watts max each of those, 5 volts, 3 amps, another 2 right here. And this is power delivery up to 60 watts. I would have liked to have seen power delivery maybe even higher than this, up to 100 watts for the new laptops, but still 60 is very, very good here. And then our DC output here, 12 volts, 3 amps, 12 volts, 10 amps for your car connector, and a DC output, this one is very powerful. This is really good to see, 12 volts, and this is 25 amps, that one. And here's our power button with a status LED around it, and our touch screen I'll get onto now. So our touchscreen here gives you a lot of information, and I mean a lot. Everything is there, and this is really good to see. Now this screen, the brightness indoors is perfect. Outdoors, as you'll see later on when I do my solar panel charging tests, it's a little hard to see. So we have a lot of information here. You can see it'll tell you your different loads here for the AC load adapter. And this is to turn on the DC side of things, or the AC, and when you turn on the AC, you'll hear like a little tiny click to turn this on. Now there's an automatic power off mode. I think it's after 4 hours. If it detects under 50 watts, it will then automatically turn itself off to save power. So if you're only using AC, there's no point in turning the DC side on. It'll tell you the loads right there. This is our remaining battery capacity. This is the input, so this will be either solar or the car. You need to swap that over in the settings, which I will show you here. So input source, I had an error before that came up, and that's because when I used my car, I still had it on the DC input source as being the solar. So using the solar, you need to select that. Eco mode, that's part of the battery saving that I just talked about before. Language setting, buzzer setting. So if you don't like the little beep it'll do, if it gets an error, it will start beeping. You can simply just turn that off. The time and date setting. Okay, data, this is where things are really quite good. Product info, inverter and charger info. So this is gonna list everything right here. And I'll let you know all the specs, which is really good to see. I mean, they've even calculated carbon dioxide emissions for things if it's going to be your car that you're running it off. They do a rough estimate of that. Temperature of things too, so great to see there. The adapter charge, so it'll give you the input voltage, current, the power. So a lot of specs here. DC, so you can see the output there. Again, the temperatures are both in Celsius and Fahrenheit. So really good. The power delivery, all your different USB ports, all listed there. So there's ample information. Really, really good to see. I didn't expect this at all, and I'm really surprised by how much information they show you here. So the output voltage, the current, the power, I'll get onto that when I do a little bit of testing and just load this thing up shortly. And that is basically it for that with the information. Now the battery management system, okay, so the BMS maintenance, you can see the battery voltage of those auto grade. So they're actually auto grade batteries are using in the cells, which is really good. So these ones have a higher cycle count. So instead of like 500, this is 1,000 for them. So automotive grade ones. The battery current, oh, and fault, sorry, almost didn't show you that. So there's a couple that I have too that came up. That's because I didn't select things correct. Adapter low voltage, and you can see when they are flagged in and go through all of this, and you're able to clear this too. And it'll beep at you and tell you when there's a fault. For example, if you've gone over the 700 watts, that's the peak that it can handle solar input charging. If it goes over that, then that will trigger an error, just for a safety precautionary measure, that it will swap and switch off actually from charging and throw that fault. The same with the output. If it exceeds the 2000 watts, that'll flag an error. And the charging outputs on the top, the wireless outputs here, so 15 watts maximum. And I just put two devices on here that do support the wireless charging. And this is using the Qi standard, and you'll see that both of them now are charging just fine there. On the left side, you'll find the inputs too. So charging input right there, that can be solar up to 700 watts. And then our AC adapter, that is 500 maximum. Now you can have it dual charging at the same time. So using the AC, and then you can use your solar panels, or even get another adapter and be charging it at a super high rate that can fully charge this in around about 3 hours, which is really quick considering the capacity of the batteries. Either side, we've got these handles so you can lift it up, and it's very, very heavy. There's a lot of battery capacity packed into this, and it's understandable. It's around about 20 kilos or so, very, very heavy. So there is a cooling fan on either side too. So once this is working hard, either charging or discharging the inverter there to keep all the components cool, and for safety reasons, it will come on and you will hear it, a little bit of a slight whooshing noise, and that is blowing and passing air from one side to the other, keeping those components in there nice and cool to stop any overheating. So good for safety. Checking here on our charging rate. So the AC adapter is plugged in and it is doing close to, according to this, 400 watts. It's 391 watts. Now when you're discharging and charging at the same time, be it solar or AC, it can do it. It's fine. It's able to handle it, the inverter and all the components inside, without triggering off, as long as you don't surpass the input wattage or the output wattage. Now I wanted to test out more or less how accurate is the touchscreen meter for the wattage there. So using my desktop PC, it's pulling here 700 watts according to my wall meter, and then on the touchscreen that's reporting 713, which is slightly above, but that's probably due to the inverter and the components inside using up a little more power. Now I did a quick little test here, loading up AC and DC as well as charging, and no problems. Again, if you don't exceed the 2000 watts, you won't have a problem. So this is a hairdryer. This is 2400 watts. There we go. It is beeping. Now it has pulled up to that 2400. It's not happy about it, and that's why it's throwing the error that I am just simply drawing too much current through it, using too much wattage. So that's why it keeps beeping, still not happy. Eventually it'll stop beeping, you clear that code. Okay, there we go. It's happy now. So if you keep under the 2000 watts, you can run chest freezers for about 3 to 4 hours, depending on the wattage, of course, TVs, all sorts of things off just this battery bank. So not quite perfect weather here today. There is a tiny little bit of very light cloud cover, and I've got that awesome looking halo effect around the sun, as you can see. But let's see how the solar panels fare. I will test out first just the single solar panels here with the 500 watt hour battery and see the output we're currently getting. Now of course you shouldn't leave these out in the sun. You don't leave the power banks out in the sun. They're going to get too hot and they will end up tripping the thermal sensors inside, and you won't end up charging anything. I'm just doing this for the purposes of this video. Normally I would have the battery bank inside in a shed and the solar panels outside. Right now almost 90 watts. I have seen it peak at about 100 watts. Remember, there's a tiny bit of light cloud cover. I'm currently charging one of my scooters, so it's 90 watts, 92 in and 110 out. And these are the solar panels that I am using. These ones here have an output of 120 watts. Very good build quality. So right here we have a handle. They do have a strap, so they clip all together. And there are mounting points. If you did want to mount it onto, say, a wall or hang it up, you can do so. So in this pouch right here, very good quality too. The stitching and the fabric and everything. You'll find our cables. The specs of the panels themselves is actually listed inside there. Now the spec of this one, the panel efficiency, they claim is up to 23%, and the voltage at max power is 19.8 volts. So when you open it right up, you will see that on the back of it here, there's a little Velcro strap, and that's for the supports to just get it upright. And I'll flip it over and you can see, of course, the 4 panels it does have. And that's just a couple that I have on camera So it's getting a little more cloudy, but the sun's still out, and I'm only reaching about 90 watts on each of the 3 set of panels that I have right now. So I've got them all hooked up in series. Now in theory, on a really bright day, without any slight light clouds that I have at the moment, I should be able to get somewhere over 300 watts of charging. This is connected up to the big 2000 watt hour battery. So the screen is really hard to see in direct sunlight, but I am currently charging at around 230 to 250 watts, which is not bad at all, considering there is a little bit more of that light cloud cover affecting the performance of these solar panels. So at the current rate, it's going to take then around about 12 hours, 11 hours to fully charge. Now on a good day, at these solar panels at their peak output, you're looking then around about 8 to 9 hours to fully charge the 2000 watt hour battery. And you can also alternate it, charge it. So if you were, say, going on a camping trip and the battery didn't have that much in it and it's a very long drive, plug it in. Now at the current rate, it's 113 watts, so it will take a long time. You're looking here at about 18 or 20 hours or so to fully charge it if you're going to be alternator charging it using, say, your car or truck. So of course you can run whatever you want with this outdoor garden tools as long as it does not surpass the 2000 watts. So this line trimmer here, I'm going to test it out, and this is only a maximum, I think it is 400 or 500 watts, so not a problem at all for the battery bank to handle this. Now if you are going to be using the battery bank in a more permanent fixture, I recommend going with more permanent solar panels like this one here. This is an 80 watt one. I use this to charge the smaller battery bank that I've shown. I've got that and I've had it for about 3-4 months now, and I use this to charge it. It's only 80 watts, but it does a decent job because I don't have to worry about rain, the sun deteriorating the fabrics on the more portable panel that I showed you before, those 3 separate panels. They'll eventually wear out from the sun after a few years. They're not really for a permanent setup. This is. It's a flexible panel that you could put on the roof of, say, a motorhome or RV. Okay, so quickly to summarize here, fantastic output on this one. I really like the fact that DC out on this can go all the way up to 25 amps, 12 volts. We have right up to, of course, the 2000 watts that I've mentioned probably about 5 or 6 times in this video. And then the input. So it will charge, both of these can charge at the same time from the solar or from the AC and be outputting at the same time. If you're powering them on, you keep them on, they can actually be used then as a UPS, I discovered with this one at least. So imagine you've got it plugged in to the grid power, fully charged, it's plugged in your PC, and it will run your PC if the grid power goes off, as long as this, of course, is flicked on, which you'd have to have. You have to have it on. You can turn the eco mode off. So eco mode, if after 4 hours and it's using less than 50 watts, it will automatically power itself off to save on battery, because having the DC mode on and the AC mode on and this powered on without even anything connected up slowly does drain the battery a little, and you notice it more on this particular model here. The smaller model, just to point out, this is more of a camper's one, I think, because we've got a light on the back of it, which would be great if you're sitting in a tent or something too and you want to charge and run laptops and things. You're able to do that. And there's even an SOS flashing too that I can cycle on. That'll go through. And up top we do have the wireless charging, which is good. Now this particular model here is only 300 watts maximum output. The 500 watt hours is great. So I've been using this for months now, charging my e-bikes and e-scooters, and it's worked out fine for me. However, there's one thing I wanted to point out, that in the morning when the sun's not powerful enough to charge this at all from your solar panels, if you've got your solar panels plugged into it, what happens is it will turn itself on, but it doesn't have enough power coming from your solar panels to actually do anything. So it gets in a state where it's stuck. It's not charging or doing anything. And that could come up to midday and I'll realize, is it charging? How's my battery level going on it? Check it and go, oh, hang on, it hasn't charged at all. Unplug the cable, plug it back in, then it will start to charge. That's going to happen with the solar panels if they're not outputting enough, which is one con I wanted to mention. The other is the fans in them. Once you surpass 70 watts, both input for charging or output if you're powering something else, the fan comes on. And on the little model, it's a little loud, so it's slightly annoying. It's not too bad. I noticed that on the bigger, more expensive model, it is a bit quieter. Now, the battery cells they've used, this is automotive grade ones in this, okay? So they should do about up to 1,000 cycles, standard grade on the cheaper, smaller model. So that will be around about 500 cycles with this one. Now there are reasonably expensive units here, okay? So this one's about 500 euros. This is well over, or just over, should I say, about 2,000 euros here in Europe for the Power Oak version. And the Bluetti one in the United States and America, I believe, is selling for quite a bit less. So there's a difference here with the prices. Now, build quality, very, very good on this. It is a heavy unit, about 20 kilos. Good handles and grips on it. Nice solid rubber feet. Input charging is great on this too as well. So up to 700 watt solar and then up to 500 AC charging with the power brick if you get another power brick. And you can even run 2 power bricks to charge it in like 3 hours if you needed to charge it up really quick for an emergency. Say you needed to run, I don't know, a chest freezer. It would run it for 4 hours or so, one of those, so you can have that. So plenty of situations you can use this for emergencies, for campers, but I believe people with motorhomes, RVs, and caravans and things like that, or just a small hut and you want to be off the grid, I think they are perfect for that. Definitely with this one. So I'm really impressed with it, build quality wise. Of course, I need to keep using this for months on end, but I haven't been able to really get any problems or issues, just that con I mentioned with this one with the charging when at low voltage there. So thank you so much for watching this review of these Power Oak Bluetti power stations.